All right. Hello. How's everybody doing tonight? Man, oh man. It feels like let me turn this down. I don't know if I'm coming a little too hot or not. Man, oh man. It feels like it's been a long time since I've actually been live in the community. And I'm actually pretty excited, man, to be here. It has been a couple of weeks, since kind of my last interview. My last interview was with Alicia Way, and that was actually a pretty cool interview. I was actually pretty excited about that. Then we had a couple of scheduling issues with a few people, and we're still trying to get those things kind of rescheduled and have a couple of new things on our plate. How are you guys doing tonight? Welcome to the live stream, the community takeover. This is where you get to kind of come in and talk about whatever it is that's on your mind. I do have a topic that I wanted to talk about. But however, if it's something that is on your mind that you are looking to talk about, please let me know and I can send you a link and you can hop on and we can chat it up a little bit, talking about if there's something from a coaching standpoint that I can help you with, if there's something from a business standpoint that you need help with, people problem, path, things that you're thinking about doing, I can definitely kind of help you with those things. But the other thing that I love about the community is that, typically we get 2 or 3 people, 4 people that'll kind of jump on here and also just kind of provide their own insight for whatever it is that you may be going through. And that's why we call it the community takeover. It is the opportunity and time for you to just kind of come in, hang out, talk a little bit, and we just have some fun. And hopefully you get some problems solved or some things that you've been thinking about, kind of solved tonight. I had like 2 or 3 different things that I wanted to talk about tonight. And one was dealing with individuals who are holding a position, and they've been holding that position for a while, and they are blocking the movement of other people. How many of you know that, right? If you know of anybody like that, please say, I know somebody like that, or hashtag, I know somebody like that in the comments. They are in this position and really their time is done. It's over. They're holding on to it because they may not know what else to do. And they are blocking the next generation, if you will, of leaders that are coming up. I've seen it so much in my career. And it's very disheartening because you are truly blocking other people and their progression just because you want to stay there and you actually have that position. One of the things that we talked about, we just had a podcast, not last week, but the week before last, and it talked about the 5 levels of leadership. And that first level was position and how people get enamored with the position that they currently have within their organization. And a lot of times people will mistake position for leadership, and there could be nothing further from the truth. Position is just that. It is the actual starting point for anything and everything that you are going to embark upon as a leader. And so for us, it's important that from us, meaning Worthy Retail U, when we help our clients, we help them walk through those 5 levels of leadership. And what I'm talking about in context of that individual who is kind of just staying there and they don't know what else to do and they are blocking people. Man, I have so many things that I wanted to kind of talk about as it relates to that. And that will probably be another topic. Unless you guys want to talk about that, we can go ahead and talk about that one. But before I move into some of the things that I do want to discuss, I do want to talk a little bit about, how we kind of put some of this stuff together and a little bit of our community and some things that are important to us as well. So everything that you are seeing here tonight, all the overlays, this entire live stream, everything we created in Ecamm Live, the entire process, all the overlays, the music in the background, our ability to play the music is by Ecamm. And we are an affiliate of Ecamm Live. It is an amazing software that allows you to live stream to multiple platforms. But the cool part is that it allows you to customize every aspect of your live stream, where you can make your live stream super individualized to you and your brand, but more importantly, where you can communicate your message better via the live stream. So everything that you see here tonight, that you will see, it's actually created in Ecamm Live as well, just to let you know that. Also, if you are currently on YouTube, or if you're not on YouTube, one of the things that we are trying to do, we are trying to grow our YouTube channel. We are trying to get that first 100 subscribers. So my ask is that if you are not currently a YouTube subscriber, I ask that you go to our YouTube channel. You can actually find a link in our Facebook group, or if you're currently looking at this on YouTube, obviously you're on our page. So go ahead and click that subscribe button. But also, if you are enjoying anything that you hear tonight and you are watching this on YouTube, I ask that you go ahead and click that like button as well, because that just helps us get our content in front of more people who want to know about leadership, more people who want to learn, grow, and expand their leadership impact. And that's truly what our channel does. So please, if you are thinking about, subscribing, go ahead and hit that subscribe button as well. And then, of course, if you are already part of our Facebook community, or if you are not part of our Facebook community, or if you know someone else who needs some of this content, who's looking to kind of grow their leadership prowess, who's not just a retail leader, but someone who is embarking upon their leadership journey, and they are looking for strategies, they're looking for content, they're looking for authentic communication on whatever it is that they may need to get them from where they are to the next level. This is what we try to do in our community. We provide content so that we experience leadership growth together, because as a leader, one of the things you will know is that you will grow when your community grows. You will grow when other people around you grow. And that is the number one thing that we try to do within our community as well. All right, so cool. Just wanted to get some of that stuff out of the way, just so that way you guys are all set. If you have any questions, once again, please don't hesitate to put them in the comments. If you put a Q in front of it, that'd be great. If not, just go ahead and put it on out there. I'm okay with that as well, because this live stream and everything that we talk about tonight is really truly for you. It is for you and your leadership growth. So let me ask you this question. How many of you are leading teams? How many of you are leading teams? So whether or not you are a content creator, that you are leading a virtual team, you're leading a team. You are a retail leader, you are a store manager, you are a market manager, regional manager, you're leading a team. You're in telecommunications, you have several people that are reporting to you. You are leading a team. And a massive part of leading a team properly is having a better understanding about who your team is and where they currently are within their leadership, I guess, journey, if you will. And part of that is being able to ask a lot of pointed questions to those individuals without being overbearing, without trying to be too intrusive. Well, there's a couple caveats to what we're going to talk about tonight. And what we're really going to talk about tonight is five ways to ask your team how are they doing without asking them how they're doing. Right? How they're doing without asking them how they're doing. And we're going to talk a little bit about that as well too. But before we do that, I want to make sure I say hello to everybody who's actually out here. Thank you so much. Hello. How are you doing, Samantha? Inspiration Connection TV says hello, Mr. Worthy. Thank you so much for being here. I asked her how she was doing, and she said she's doing well. She's doing great. So excellent. I appreciate that. Hey, how are you doing? How are you doing, Leslie? All right, this is Leslie, and I am a retail team leader. Learning about my team. Excellent. Excellent. I got you. How are you doing tonight? Well, if you have questions, Leslie, please don't hesitate. Don't hesitate to ask your questions or to pose your questions, because this is for you and for whoever else joins us tonight and they want to learn a little bit more about leading their team and some of the things that they can do to ask them some questions about how they're doing without asking them how they're doing. So here's the thing. Leadership, you have to take the time to get to know your team. So these questions that we will talk about tonight, I won't say they're easy questions, but they become easier to ask because when you know your team a little bit more. And how do you get to know your team? You have to spend time with them. You also have to let your team know a little bit more about who you are as a leader as well. Because the tendency sometimes in leadership is that, I messed that one up. All righty. For a second. Give me 1 second. Oh, that's perfect. That'll work. That'll work. I'm taking this right from my Instagram account, so that'll work too. I like that. I actually like how I did that. That's actually pretty cool. So one of the things that you have to really understand a little bit before I'm going to get back into that one, a little bit more about your leadership team is how to connect with them, and you spend time with your team. And I think I was talking about that before I hit the button, is to let them know a little bit more about who you are as a leader, kind of what you stand for. Here's what happens sometimes when people start to share a little bit about themselves. They get a little bit, when they don't start to see the connection with their team immediately, and I say immediately, within like the first couple of conversations that you have with that person. So a lot of times leaders will feel like they should be past that barrier of connecting with that person. And once again, that could be nothing further from the truth. And here's why. Because a lot of times when you are leading certain people, you are probably leading a person who has been in that role a lot longer than you have probably been a leader. And they have seen 4 or 5 different leaders kind of come around saying the same thing that you're saying, trying to do the same thing that you're doing, which is trying to connect. And in their mind's eye, is like, how much longer, since Leslie is here, I'm going to use Leslie tonight. Since, how much longer is Leslie going to be here? Right? She's been here for 5 minutes and now she's trying to get to know me. Well, Steve did the same thing and Steve got fired or Steve got promoted or whatever the case may be. So you have to understand a little bit more about what your team is, their conceptualization of what you're trying to do is probably going to be a lot different than what you think. And it's going to take some time, some a lot longer, some a shorter period of time for you to be able to connect with them. But you can't give up. And how do you know when you've actually been able to connect with them? I'm going to ask that question. Leslie or Samantha, if you guys are both out there, you guys are listening, and I see that we also have Anita is here as well. All right, excellent. Give me your thoughts on when do you feel, what are some signs that you feel when you feel you've been able to connect with your team? Because there are some signs, there are some things that will probably come a lot easier to you. There are some things, actually, I'm going to take my headphones off because I don't really need my headphones because I'm just talking right now. How many of you are in that position where you've trying to connect with that person? Give me some signs. Give me some of those signs that you feel that your team will start to display towards you when you have been able to connect with that individual. Because there's a couple of signs. So I'm going to wait here a little bit, but I'm not going to wait too long because I know there's a certain lag. You guys are probably typing, and that's fine as well. But when we are talking a little bit about leadership and we're talking about connecting with our teams, one of the things that we try to help people understand is to try to connect with your teams by asking questions, because it's extremely important that you're able to ask a question of your team. And when you're able to ask a question of your team, a lot of times you will start to get more and more information out of them, more so than you ever thought that you would, by actually just trying to kind of plod along and actually get things done. So we have come up with, and these are not all encompassing, but these are some really good questions that you can ask once you've kind of moved past that point of actually building and establish some measure of relationship with your team. Okay. So number one, let's try to get to number one. What feelings or events are you dealing with this week? What feelings or events are you dealing with this week? And what I mean by that is that when we start to talk about your feelings, and I don't know, that sounds like a deep word to talk about in leadership, right? Because a lot of times you are probably programmed not to talk about, your feelings. And what I mean by feelings in this context is like, how are you feeling? That's what this question is really asking. Leslie, how are you feeling this week about different events or that you have to deal with this week? Right? So he says, what feelings or events are you dealing with this week? We are trying to ask you a question to kind of get under the surface of who you are, of where you currently are, and also to get to the meat of the issue. Maybe not in this very first question, but we're going to probably get there in a couple other questions. But just trying to kind of touch the base, kick the tires around a little bit to see if you are going to open up, to see if you are actually going to give us any inkling or any kind of, thought around where you are and how you may be feeling. The issue is that this situation This process of leadership, and it requires time. It requires you to be patient. It requires you to be open. And if you're not open, and if you're not willing to take the time, then questions like this will fall on deaf ears. And here's the thing, they may fall on deaf ears initially anyway, because you haven't built up the rapport to connect with them. All right. So just to kind of go back through, we got a couple other some comments here. Hey, how are you doing, Laura? Oh, says, so good to see you. So good to see you live. Thank you. I said it's been a while. It's been a little while. And so I'm actually glad. To be back live. So we had a big visit today. It has been overwhelming. Oh, wow. You got to tell me about that visit. You got to tell me about that visit. And who was the visit? Was it your senior vice president? Was your group vice president? Because I know you're working at Target. Let me know who it was, because I may know a couple of people that are still there, and I can probably imagine how the visit went. Depending on the person as well too. So, first question to ask your team how they're feeling without asking how they're feeling is, what feelings or events are you dealing with this week? Oh, so you had an HQ visit. Oh, okay. All right. That could be, because you're not sure what they're looking for, or if you're DTL, or what do they call them? Senior directors now. Hopefully they provided you with some good information that you were able to kind of get through the visit as well too. So next question, number 2. Says, where do you want to be this time next week? Where do you want to be this time next week? It's a question that we typically ask in the context of, from a small project that someone is dealing with at work. Or here's the other question. Here's the other process that we typically kind of ask this question around too. It's around talent, especially this time of year, right? This is the go time in retail, and it is all about talent. It is all about how are you bringing great talent on board to help you execute everything that you need to do in Q4, so that you can drive these last minute sales, the sales in this last quarter. And so a lot of times we are asking and posing this question in the context of, how are you right now staffing wise? So I'm not going to ask you, sometimes I will probably ask you straight out, but a lot of times, hey, where do you feel like you need to be with that person? Or if you are coaching someone in the context of, developmental, or it could be in the context of like, they're not going to make it. Where are you right now? Where do you want to be next week? And so asking kind of that open-ended question kind of gives them the opportunity to talk about something that's on their mind. A lot of times we ask questions as leaders, or you should ask questions as leaders, especially if you're trying to get to know the person, or you may have an idea of what you want to talk about with that person. But if you ask this question, a lot of times it opens up different avenues and different things that they are thinking about that you weren't even thinking about. They are going to probably be dealing with certain things in their life or within their business unit that they are thinking about that you probably weren't even thinking about when you asked that question. And it's okay, because guess what? Now they may feel more comfortable with asking you a question or posing something to you, because you've been able to build up some measure of rapport over time with this individual. All right. So let's go ahead and get a couple comments here. Hey, how are you doing, Dr. Wood, man? Hey, Steve, what's up, man? Good to see you. I appreciate you jumping in. JP High Tech, how are you doing, sir? And then looking good, brother. What camera lens combo are you on? So this is still the A6400 with the Sigma 16, and it still has the LUT that you have supplied me with. And I have actually went out and we're gonna get back to the leadership stuff here in a second. But JP's asking me a question, so I gotta get with JP. So now I went out and bought the this is the Sony ZVE10, and it also has a Sigma 16 millimeter on it as well. And I do have the 30 millimeter that I typically use for this side angle, but I just wanted to put this one on here for a little while. And actually, I'm going to keep it on this shot for here for a second. Thank you, JP, for asking. So I'm going to keep it on this shot for a little bit. When you're asking questions for your team, it is so important that you understand a little bit about where you stand with that individual. Does that make sense? If that makes sense, well, let me help you out with that. Let me help you out with that. So, if you listen to our podcast, the 5 levels of leadership, love that. I love talking about those 5 levels of leadership. And here is the thing with those 5 levels of leadership. And I should have actually I am on Instagram right now, and I am actually going to, I don't think I have. So this is our 5 levels of leadership that we talked about. The first one is position. The second one is permission. The third level is production. The fourth level is people development. And the fifth level is some call pinnacle. I call it personhood. It is that level that will take you it will take you 10, 15 years to get to that personhood level. We just lost, regardless of how you feel about him, I thought he was a great leader, Mr. Colin Powell. Mr. Colin Powell was a level 5 leader. He was a statesman. He had people that followed him, not so much just because of his politics, but they followed him because of who he is. The thing about the 5 levels of leadership, and this is important as you start to think about these questions that we're talking about, is that you are in a different position. You are at a different level with everybody at a different point in time. So we just had Dwayne, and we just had JP on, and just from a comment standpoint, right? I know JP a little bit more than I do Dwayne. And so my level of leadership level with JP is probably a little higher, just using him as an example if I'm just coming on board somewhere. So my level of leadership, JP is probably looking at me maybe at the production level, because I've been able to produce some decent results, and JP kind of understands a little bit more about who I am. Dwayne, not so much. I'm brand new to him. So right now, I am just strictly a positional leader for Dwayne. We're at 2 people, and I am sitting at completely different levels with that individual. However, the other side of that is that I, in my leadership journey, may be at a level 3 or 4 right now, because I have been able to go through the position. I have gone through position. I've gone through the permission. I have been able to produce really good results. And now I'm at that level of my leadership where I am consistently developing talent. However, given that individual, I am somewhere completely different. And so when we start to talk about communication and connecting with your teams, you have to kind of understand where you are with that person when you pose that question, because it all depends. The answer will depend upon where you are with that person. So please, if you're understanding this, you're following me, please just go ahead and say, hey, Steve, I'm following you. I'm with you. I'm tracking. Also, if you have a question, like Leslie or anybody, Dwayne or JP, Anita, if you're out there as well, Samantha, please don't hesitate to ask me a question, because once again, this is how everybody learns, by asking a different question. And I'm just going to try to get right back to where I was, so that way we can do that. All righty. Let me get my thing back. She says, yes, You're following me. Thank you so much, Laura. I appreciate you. I really appreciate you. I really do. So question three. Question three. Leslie, you're following as well. Thank you, Leslie. Appreciate it. So, what do you need to do less or more of this week? So, understand this too. I I put the words you know week in there because you can use that word. You can change that word. Month, quarter, right? It's all up to you. I just use that one to signify the immediacy of kind of what we're going into as a retail leader, going into the fourth quarter. So now, right now, it is go time, and so we're going to be going week by week. We start to think of certain things. How are you doing, Robert? Good to see you, big guy. Good to see you. Thanks for being on. Thanks for being here and stopping by. I appreciate it, man. So, what do you need to do less or more of this week? This question for me is really telling sometimes because when you start to deal with certain leaders, you start to have a better understanding about who they are and their idiosyncrasies around leadership and whether or not they are a doer, an executor, or they are really a leader in the context of planning, strategizing, and also understanding the resources, meaning the teams, meaning the personnel that they actually have, payroll, all of those things within their wheelhouse, and their ability to be able to use all of those to actually get something done. So when you ask them, what do you need to do less or more of this week? Sometimes it should become a matter of delegation. It should become a matter of, you know what, maybe I need to actually step back and actually have my team execute a little bit more. I've been really in their face for the last couple of weeks because we had a bad visit or we're not hitting our production time. It all depends on where you are within your leadership journey as well. So that is when you start to say, what do you need to do less of? It's a really good question. What do you need to do more of? And here's the one thing as a leader that you should be doing more and more of, and that is communication. And a lot of leaders mistake direction for communication. Get that. Please get that. You cannot mistake giving direction for communication. Communication is a two-way street. Communication it is a matter of you providing probably a question or a comment, and you're actually looking for something in return. It also means one of the worst things that I used to do from a communication standpoint as a young leader um, was my nonverbal. My nonverbals as a young leader were horrible because I had the arms crossed all the time, and my body was not approachable. It was really tense, and it was almost like to the point of like, you know what, whatever it is that you're telling me, I'm not gonna like it because I already know the answer, and I'm just waiting for you to finish so I can give you the answer. I said all of that without saying anything. And so when you start to think about your communication, it is not just about what you say, it's also about what you don't say within that conversation. And so asking somebody what they need to do less or more of, and being able to actually take it in and to receive it without rebuttal, or maybe ask another question for clarity wise, is actually a really good thing that leaders need to do more of. Less directing, more communicating, more connecting with your team, and also asking them the why potentially behind something that they want to do, this direction that they want to go. A lot of times we tend to already have in our minds, I'm raising my hand because that was me. I already have in my mind which way I want this conversation or I want this project or this process to go. However, this person may have another one, but the only way you do that is less directing and more communication. And so Robert says, less work, ninth consecutive work day. Yeah, dude, you've been burning the midnight oil, dude. You really have been, man. You got a lot of good things going on too. So I had to jump back here on the live stream with Worthy Retail Youth and get in here with the community. It's been a little while. What questions, if any, do you guys have about where you currently are in your leadership? What's something that you may be struggling with? In your business? It doesn't have to just to be, leadership. It could be in your business. It could be with another person, or it could be with a project or a process or something like that. I know we're talking about questions to ask your team, but once again, this is the community takeover, and I'm okay with going down a different hole, if necessary, to get your questions answered. This is what this whole thing is about. It is truly, truly about you, and where you are within your journey. So I'm going to go to question 3. So what has been your biggest challenge or win this week? I love this question. I love this question. I love this question. This question right here is this one will let you know a little bit more about your team in so many different ways, because what has been your biggest challenge or win this week? Here's what I often want to hear, and here's what I don't hear. And this is just because I've been doing this leadership thing for a long time. And I know that every measure of success that I've been able to have has been because I've been able to put a really solid team together. And they have made me shine. They have had my back. They have equipped the people under them for success. So when you ask this question, what has been your biggest challenge or win this week? What you want to hear, I'm just going to start with that. What you really want to hear is how you and your team were winning, right? I'm going to talk about the win first, the win part first, and I'll talk about the challenge piece here in a second. When you talk about what is your biggest win this week, it should be about you and your team, what you guys were able to get accomplished. It could be a result. It could be people. It could be a connection with a customer. It could be a big project that you have been working on, or part of that project has been completed, or whatever it may be, right? You now have the opportunity to talk about your team a little bit more than you have ever before. When you're posed that question, what is the biggest challenge? What is the biggest win this week? It should be about you and your team. It shouldn't be about yourself. So now, when you are posed the question, what has been your biggest challenge? Here's the ideal scenario. Here's the ideal scenario as a leader, because I'm talking to you guys as leaders, right? Because that's what you guys are. If you have a question, if you have anything, please go ahead and put it in the comments. If you're tracking with me, I appreciate that as well. What is your biggest challenge this week? When you couch this answer to your boss, or even sometimes to your team, when you're talking to your team, man, this is our biggest challenge. You know what? Our payroll is super tight. It's super tight this week. That is our biggest challenge this week. How are we going to get through this? Or let's say your biggest challenge is you've already kind of gotten through that. The ideal scenario as a leader is that you should be talking about how you helped your team get through this process. How you helped your team get through this process. Hopefully you get that, because the tendency sometimes when we start to talk about our challenges, we start to deflect them and we start to talk about our team. and the deficiencies maybe of our team. You may have some deficiencies, understandably so. Understand that. However, as a leader, your ideal scenario, your ideal perspective should be around being solution oriented and how to help bring people along for the ride. Even if you have people in your team that are not meeting your standards, and we all do. But as a leader, your job is not, and I am not talking this Pollyannish type of mindset around being positive and everything is great. That is not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about being 100% real. However, as a leader, your job is to figure out how to make things better for you and your team, and not dwell on the deficiencies of your team. Because if you dwell on the deficiencies of your team, you will not get anywhere. Now, should you be working on the deficiencies of your team and try to figure out who should be on your team and who shouldn't be on your team? Right? The whole book, Good to Great. I'm gonna do a live stream, and I'm gonna go through a whole bunch of books that I've read and give you some really good stuff as well. You need to truly understand how you need to communicate with your team and connect with your team, because it is about your team. It is not about you as an individual. I have led some large teams. I have led some super small teams. I have led international teams. I have led teams that sometimes didn't speak a lot of English in certain, and this is not just in retail, in different in different industries. And I've still had to be able to communicate my message and then still try to lead this team towards a common goal. So just think about certain barriers that you currently have. But how are you able to make sure, when you're posed this question, what has been your biggest challenge, or what is your biggest challenge or win this week? How are you going to answer that question? How are you going to think about what you're trying to get accomplished? Because as a leader, your goal is to take your team from where they currently are to a different position, positive. Hopefully you're developing talent and you're moving them positively towards a positive outcome and result as well. So thank you, sir. Your setup and transitions look amazing. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that, man. I appreciate that. This is this is all eCam, and wait for tomorrow. So hopefully you're joining. You'll be joining us for Podcasters Live, and I don't want to get off too much on a tangent, because this is what Worthy Retail You, but we got the Podcasters Live. Not tomorrow. I'm actually gonna do a live stream tomorrow in that community as well. But then on Sunday we have our very first episode. If you want to know more about that, ask the question, and we can. If you're a podcaster, you're thinking about doing something, we got a whole nother thing going on as well too. So I'm pretty excited about that. I'm not gonna get too much into going down that tangent right now, because I can talk about that one all day as well. Leadership, podcasting, live streaming, I could talk all day long. So question 5. Hopefully you guys are getting this. Hopefully you guys are getting some value out of this. If you're getting some value out of this, please let me know. Whether you are listening to this live or you're looking at this on the live stream, please let me know, and let me know value. Okay, we'll see JP, you are okay, man. All right. I thought you knew about this, JP. So I apologize. I'm going to get to question 5 here in a second, but I got to answer JP's question. Tell me more about Podcasters Live, please. So JP, I started a new channel, YouTube channel, and also a new group, and it is called Podcasters Live. As you know, and everybody else here knows, I'm a podcaster, and I love podcasting, and I also love live streaming. And what I was part of several months ago, and I'm going to make this quick, was it was called a podcast support group, where podcasters from all around the world got together, and we would talk about podcasting, the different topics and different things like that. So about 3 or 4 of us, we kind of broke off, and it wasn't, we kind of mutually connected on certain things, and two people over in the UK, or three people over in the UK, and then I was the only one here in the States, and we started meeting via Zoom. This was earlier this year, started in January, and actually started in December of last year. And we would meet probably every 2 weeks, and we would just talk about what we are going through as podcasters, and and we would just help each other work through different things, whether it's editing, um, podcast topics, episodes, yada yada yada. And I would always say, man, this should be we should make this into a podcast. And so we had a couple of more meetings, and I was thinking more and more about it. And then I did the International Podcast Day the other day, September 30th. And I just said, forget it. I love podcasting. I love live streaming. And there's probably only one other channel that's out there doing it. And so I said, you know what? We're going to start Podcasters Live. And so Sunday is our very first episode at 3 o'clock. I'll send you an invite. I thought I sent you an invite to Podcasters Live. It's going to be our very first episode. We have four people, four podcasters on, and two are in the UK, and then two are here in the States. And then, of course, I'm going to be facilitating the discussion, and we're going to be talking about your why behind podcasting. So every episode, we're going to be doing something. We're going to have a different topic, but we're also going to allow those individuals to talk a little bit more about their podcast and give them, a platform to kind of talk about it. So I'm really excited about it, man. It's combining several things that I enjoy, and the podcast community is amazing. So there you go, buddy. Hopefully that answers your question. I'll make sure I get you. You can do the YouTube search too. So please, we're trying to grow that channel as well. It's Podcasters Live. You can go ahead and check that out too. These are fabulous reflection questions for connection. Thank you, Laura. Thank you so much. I appreciate that, and I think I'm glad you said that too, because I think the tendency sometimes is that when we think about asking questions to our team, I think the bigger and broader question sometimes is, how are we asking? What are certain questions that you won't like to be asked by your boss, or anticipating some of those questions that your boss may ask you? And then think about a question that you could probably pose to your team that's going to help them grow, help them think, help them, provide some introspection, a little bit about where they are and who they are, right? And I know those sounds like really big questions, right? Really big questions, and they're really not. When you've been doing like leadership for a while, man, I have spent too much time not helping people. And this is me being very honest with you. The early parts of my career, not helping people develop and grow, because I was so fixated on myself and my growth and my position and me moving up the ladder, where I left so many people behind in my early years. And so this is why I am extremely passionate about leadership and your ability to bring people along for the ride with you, even if that means you have to, move backwards. So I love this example, and I'm going to get to this last question here in a second. And I love this example by John Maxwell. He talks about a locomotive train, and you talk about the cargo, right? So you think about, when you're driving and you see a train and you see the locomotive, the engine, and all the cars that are attached to it, and they're just going and they're just moving. It's amazing. And it's said that at top speed, a locomotive train could actually break through, of course, a brick wall. However, when that same locomotive train is at a dead stop, you can probably put that same brick or two under the wheels, and it won't move. because it doesn't have any momentum. And as a leader, momentum is everything. And the only way that you're going to be able to get the momentum is to have people that are following you. So to further this analogy with a locomotive train to connect to those cars, what has to happen? The cars don't move up and connect to the locomotive train. They don't. Guess what? The locomotive train moves backwards and it connects to those cars, then it moves forward. The same thing as a leader. The exact same thing has to happen as a leader. So when you're thinking about these questions and you're thinking about where you are and your team and trying to connect with people, it is so important that you go back and connect first. Here's why. Because a lot of times they're afraid to connect with you because you are the leader. You have a big position. You're making a lot of money, all these different things. And a lot of times they're like, this person isn't going to want to connect with me. I don't have any value to add. But when you go backwards and you connect with them, guess what? Now they feel valued. Now they're become part of your team. I don't know, probably about 3 months ago, I did an impromptu live stream. And if you want to go, you can go back and check it out. I'm actually thinking about turning that into a podcast. And I was talking about picking your team versus inheriting your team. So there's a couple elements of what I'm talking about in that impromptu live stream. So if you want to go back in the Facebook group, if you're not in the Facebook group, go ahead and join the Facebook group, and you can go back and listen to that. Some really good stuff there. So this last question, and I'm gonna close it out for the night. Question number 5. How are you taking care of yourself this week? How are you taking care of yourself this week? This question, we save this one for last because it's extremely important. It was important before COVID. A lot of people didn't think about it, and when I mean I mean self-care. Your ability to take care of yourself mentally, emotionally, and definitely physically. So, how are you taking care of yourself this week? What are you doing? One of the things that I have found that irritates me a lot within certain organizations and in certain situations is that I'll back up. Is that I tend to hire people who have something else going on outside of work. They have a hobby. They have something that they like to do. They like to fix cars. They like to do whatever. I find that when you bring people on board as a leader who have something else that they like to do, that they like to spend their time doing, I find that they are some of the better leaders because they're more balanced. Are they dedicated to their job? 100%. Are they dedicated to their team? Absolutely. But that other piece of their life is so valuable that it makes them a whole person. I have dealt with leaders who have nothing else to do and the job is it. And guess what? The teams feel it. I've had bosses like that. Guess what? The team feels it. And so when we start to talk about taking care of yourself this week, it is not just about it is about the mental side of it and taking time to kind of evaluate where you are and who you are. And is this where you should be, right? Oh my gosh, I've been in the same position for 5 years and I'm not moving. What do I need to do differently? Do I need to jump ship? Do I need to go to another company? Do I need to go back to school? Do I need to get recertified? All these different things. And they're really great questions to ask. And they are part of self-care, right? And I thank you, Anita. I disconnected early, and got a massage. I am so jealous. I'm so jealous, and it's girls' night, right? I'm jealous, man. I know I'm not a girl, but that's cool. You didn't have to invite me. That's all right. I appreciate you. Next time you guys need to invite me. I'm not too far from you guys. But it is also about taking care of yourself mentally. And what are you going to do? How are you challenging yourself? What books are you reading? What articles are you reading? What podcasts are you listening to? Retail Leadership with Steve Worthy, just a suggestion, and also Podcasters Live coming up soon. Anyway, I digress. So, what are you doing? Anita and Leslie just talked about girls' night, and she just talked about a massage. If there's anybody else that's listening, whether you're listening to this live or on the replay, I would love to know what are some of those things that you are doing to provide self-care for yourself, because it is an important question that you as a leader need to ask your team. To ask them how they're doing, right? Because that's the whole point of this. Let me try to get back to this area. I'm going to go back to all. It's the whole point of this is to find ways to ask your team, how are they doing, without asking them how they're doing. So hopefully, I truly hope this has helped you kind of have a little better understanding about, who you are and where you are as a leader, and what are those certain things that you need to be doing a little bit differently as a leader. If you are interested, if you want to have a one-on-one conversation with me, please send me a message. I am open to having a conversation with you and just having a dialogue and understanding a little bit more about where you are as a leader. What are some of the things that you may be struggling with? Because you can't do this alone. All right. Even as a coach, I have a coach. I have a executive coach that helps me get my thoughts together. I also have a podcast coach that helps me with getting my content together. And it's necessary that you have somebody that you can bounce something off. It's necessary that you have somebody who they have a completely their opinion has nothing to do with really kind of knowing your background, all the different things that you may have dealt with, but this person is neutral, and you can have a conversation with them about who you are and what you're truly struggling with. I often say this too, and it's true. The higher you go, a lot of times, the less feedback you receive. The higher you go, a lot of times, the less feedback you receive. And so you need someone that's going to be there to give you an honest opinion about who you are, where you are, and what you're doing. Because a lot of times we may feel like we're going down this road and everything's great, everything's gravy. And honestly, it's not the road that we're supposed to be going down, because we haven't asked ourselves the hard questions. One of the questions that I often ask when I'm talking to a client, give me 1 second. And this one gets them. This one gets them. This one gets them. So if you become a future client, I'm still going to ask you this question. They fill out a intake form. It's pretty exhaustive. They also take a personality test. We use the Enneagram for that. Nine personality types. So we're going to probably be having a podcast on that as well. So the one question I do ask is, what is the one question that you don't want me to ask you? All right, get that one. Get that question. What's the one question that you don't want me to ask? And a lot of times it's how I'm doing. Or it's like, don't ask me about my job, right? Don't ask me about my marriage. Don't ask me about um, where I am in my career. Something. I'm just throwing those out there. But when you think about that question, pose it to yourself sometimes. What's that one question that you don't want anybody to ask you? It's a tough one. Sometimes it's quick. But when you start to get to the root of it, a lot of times we don't want people to ask us something that's going to reveal an inner weakness or something that we haven't really dealt with in our lives. And so as a leader, it's important to understand. It's important to understand that you are on a journey, but it's important that you understand to be successful on your journey, you have to be an active participant in that journey. That is why we have this channel. That is why we connect and talk to people, is to help them along their journey, help them give them perspective, and help them kind of understand a little bit more about themselves so that they can say no to all of that other noise that's in their life, and they can truly focus in on what they need to do so that they can be successful. So, real quick, what is going on, man? Just hit record. I love the name, and and I'm looking forward to maybe talking to you soon about a couple other things that we got going on. Hey, Steve, great to catch the stream. I appreciate you being here so much. I want to connect with you too about a couple other things, this other channel that we got going on as well. So before we go, I would be remiss. I would be remiss if I didn't talk a little bit about what we have going on at Worthy Retail U. And this has been, oh wow. We launched um, several weeks ago, and we launched with Know Your Worth. And that is has been an amazing seller for us. We've had so many people send us stuff with pictures, and we're gonna start posting a lot of those things as well. But the things that we talk about, we try to live out. So authenticity has no competition. Firmly believe that if you know yourself and you understand who you are truly competing against yourself. You're not competing against anyone else. Anyone else. And our goal with Worthy Retail U and this channel and everything that we talk about is to help you truly get to your authentic self. And a lot of people talk about it and they give you all these 5 things to do. We don't talk about that. We just ask questions. And we ask questions that sometimes may be uncomfortable, but it's questions that are going to ask you and reveal a little bit more about who you are. So that way you can get to the root of who you are. And then knowing your worth, right? We did um, a live stream with Alicia Way, and we are talking, and we're still doing the series. We are going to be talking about knowing your worth as a content creator. So we had Alicia Way with that. We are still trying to schedule my daughter. She's super busy, and we are going to do know your worth as a leader. And then also my friend over in Singapore, we're still going to be doing that series. So know your worth as a person. So those are still coming. And then we have, of course, a series on authenticity has no competition as well. So these are things that we're extremely passionate about. And you can go to PrestonSow.com/worthy retail you, and you can go ahead and place your order there. They are already willing and able to go ahead, and that's just our worthy logo shirt that we have there, and we have sweatshirts, and we also have a cap that's there as well. So once again, I would be super remiss if I didn't talk about those the gear that we currently have as a company and as a brand as well too. And he says 100%. Ah, excellent, man. And he's looking forward to it. Good. I am as well, man. I am as well. I am as well. I've been a fan of your stuff and been looking at your stuff too, man. So I'm happy to be connected with you. So if you do not have any other questions tonight, if I've been able to help you kind of have a better understanding of how you can connect with your team, how you can ask questions to get a better understanding about where they are. But here's the last thing I want to leave you with. The level of questions that you ask your team, the answer, it will solely depend on your level of relationship that you have with them. Remember, we talked about the 5 levels of leadership and having an understanding about where you are with this person, because you may be at the position level with that person, or you may be at a level 4 with that person. But the answers to your questions with your team will depend upon the level of relationship that you have. So don't ask a question thinking that you're going to get this deep answer and you just started connecting with that person. It's just not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. So we just talked about 5 ways to ask your team how they're doing without asking them how they're doing. So I want to thank you guys for being here tonight. If you are looking at this on the replay, please don't hesitate to provide a comment or even ask me a question. Or if you want to connect with me for a discovery session, please go ahead and do it. I look forward to you guys. Have a great night and God bless. Good night, Leslie. I would love to hear a little bit more about your HQ visit. You guys have a good night.